Hello, everybody. Welcome to the month of October. I am here today to read to you Chapter 2 of My Treasured One. Next week is when I will start the Halloween Horror Fest. So if you have any scary stories that you'd like me to feature, please send them to my email listed in the description box below. And today I invite you to return to Chapter 2 of My Treasured One, dedicated to Paying and Thong. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Colors of white and gray behind an empty space. Can't always tell what you're thinking, but now it ain't the same. On and on we said with us forever. You take me to
Darling, look at these beautiful china plates. Paying turned around to find Chan touching a pair of beautiful china plates that were newly opened in the store. She walked over and he handed one to her. It was a beauty, indeed, as she touched it. Governor, an older man with a beard, if you like this one, you can simply just take it home. Really? Chan asked. Paying smiled and looked up at him. Nonsense. We should help support his business. And the moment she said this, she realized her mistake. She lowered her gaze as the store owner smiled and Chan turned to him. Look at how kind the missus is, Governor. You have picked yourself a true winner, he said. Nodding, Chan replied, Yes, I have. Here, let me know how much it costs. The moment they exited the store, Paying could feel his eyes burning a hole in the back of her head. What would he do this time? Her leg was still bruised, and she didn't know what else he could do to her. He caught up to her and took her elbow gently. You have not learned anything, have you? He whispered. Why do you provoke me so? She lowered her gaze. I did not mean to, Chan. I lost my place. Indeed you did. The sound of the horse hooves coming toward them made him loosen his grip on her. Sheriff Bailey got off the horse and adjusted his vest as he made his way to them. He tipped his hat at her, and then he turned his gaze to Chan. Governor, we got a problem. A body showed up this morning on old Ed's property. Chan's eyes widened. A body? Yep, from the looks of it, it looks like one of the girls who works inside the hotel. She's been beaten up pretty bad. The rain from last night washed away a few of the critters, but they were also biting her too. Chan shook his head. All right, he turned to Henry. Take the missus home. Paying stopped him and replied, Why don't you take Henry with you? I have Patsy, and I'll drop by Abby's boutique to get fitted. Chan's eyes gazed at her with anger, but he forced a smile. All right, dear. You go ahead and you do that. Henry? The three men took off together, and she let out a breath of relief. She turned to find Patsy coming toward her. The two women started walking toward Abby's boutique, and when they arrived, the woman was overwhelmed with joy seeing her come in. Well, I'll say, Mrs. Governor, I thought the sky had a reason to shine today. You have graced my boutique with your beautiful face. Come on, dear, let me show you my newest trends. Paying followed the woman into the back of the store, and there on mannequins were the most beautiful ruffled dresses that she'd ever seen. Nothing like what they had back in Dallas. Wow! These are a beauty, she whispered. Aren't they? I just had to find me a couple to sell. Now, how about I measure you so I can figure out what size you are? My eyes are keen on details, and I'd say you're about a size 6 or 8, but I would like to be sure. She took out her measuring tape and came to her. May I ask you to remove the top coat? Patsy came to help her, and the sleeves accidentally were pushed up higher than expected. The bruised flesh was suddenly exposed, and Abby's face paled at the sight of it. Payang immediately lowered her hand and shoved the sleeves down. Abby's cheeks flushed as she said, "Darling, it's no reason to be embarrassed." Then her voice lowered. "I was married before to a man who liked to leave his marks on me too. I know exactly what you're going through." And just like that, Payang's eyes filled up with tears and she started crying. Abby took her into her arms, holding her gently as she poured her heart out. When she felt she had no more to give, she pulled away and Abby handed her a tissue. "Mrs. Governor, you are so young and bright. I wonder what made you marry a man like him. I mean, he's old enough to be your father." She forced a smile. "It's a rather long story, which is better told over brunch." Smiling, Abby said, "Perfect! I shall host one for you and I this coming Sunday after church. You do not need to worry about a single thing, darling. With me here, I shall help you all I can. There is no reason why you must suffer quietly. Now, shall we measure you?" The sun had seemed to get warmer after her meeting with Abby. When Payang set out to return home, the wind had picked up and she felt a shiver. Where was Chan? Did everything go okay? She decided to walk home instead of taking the wagon. As the two women were walking past the bar, one of the windows from the brothel opened, and this time a red-haired woman appeared. She had the greenest eyes Payang had ever seen, and then suddenly she curved a finger at her and gestured for her to come in. Payang frowned, stopping in the middle of the street looking up. "What is it?" Patsy asked. "I don't know," Payang replied, but the commotion of a wagon and a loose horse disturbed her and she looked away. When she did return her gaze to the hotel, the woman was gone and the window was closed. She hurried her way to the manor and arrived to find Thong waiting for her. "Good day," she said as she met him at the front entrance of the home. "Good day, Mrs. Governor. I was in town and wanted to drop by to give you some samples of the soap I made." Touched, Payang said, "Come on in for some lemonade, why don't you?" He smiled and followed her in when Patsy rushed to the kitchen to bring them the drinks. He settled into the seat across from her, and she found the man to be strikingly handsome. "Are you married?" she asked. "No, ma'am, I'm not." Nodding, she replied, "Well, thank you for the soap. I did use the one I bought from the store, and it smells mighty fine. You sure have a talent, Mr. Thong. I'm truly surprised that a man has created such a wonderful piece of work." He smiled and lowered his head. "You flatter me, Mrs. Governor." And then he looked up. "Where is your husband?" Before she could answer, she heard horse hooves, and she saw Chan arriving with the sheriff. Oh no, she thought as she realized Thong was inside the house without Chan present. But when her husband walked inside with Bailey, she stood up and forced a smile. "Dear, you've returned." Chan only smiled and came to shake Thong's hand. "Good afternoon. What brings you here?" Smiling, Thong replied, "I noticed that Mrs. Governor bought the soap I made at the local store. I came by to gift her some more samples." Bailey smiled. "Oh, those soaps that Thong makes are a piece of wonder. Helps my skin from looking like a rattlesnake." Payang smiled as Chan came across the room and took her by the arm, pulling her toward him. His hand came to settle by her waist. She noticed that Thong's eyes followed the movements and she lowered her gaze, making sure she didn't look either man in the eyes. "Well, thank you, Thong, from both of us. That's kind of you." Patsy came in with another glass of lemonade for Bailey, and he took it proudly. Payang felt his hand tighten around her waist, and she was beginning to lose courage in herself. No matter what happened, she couldn't let those two men leave. If they left, Chan would beat her, and this time, seeing a man in the house without him present, he would sure take his time in punishment. She looked up and bravely announced, "Why don't you two stay for dinner?" The food on the table looked grand, grander than anything Thong had feasted on. He noticed that Payang's eyes held uncertainty. Every time he lifted his gaze to look up at her. And he also noticed that the moment her husband came in, she disappeared into a very small version of herself. He'd wonder if there was more to that story than what meets the eye. "Thank you, Mrs. Governor, for inviting me and Tom to stay for dinner," Bailey said as he forked some beans onto his plate. "I have to say, this is the best dinner I've ever had in a long time. Governor, you got yourself a good woman. Not only is she a looker, but she can cook, too." Chan's lips turned into a tight grin. "Thank you. I'm a lucky man." But Tong saw the tightness around his eyes as he stared at his wife. He noticed how Paying's hand shook lightly when she was trying to eat. It was warm nowadays outdoors and even inside here. The warmth had him beginning to sweat in his loose shirt. But why was she bundled up so tightly? Was she hiding bruises on her skin? It was a thought that now bothered him. He reached for a piece of steak at the same time she did. Their utensils collided together, and a strange octave sound was heard. She froze, and he laughed as he casually forked the steak and stood, leaning over to drop it onto her plate. "Thank you," she whispered. Chan smiled and wiped his mouth with his napkin. "Mighty heroic of you, Tong." He didn't answer as he watched the colors drain from her face. He had figured it out. It was killing him inside, and the strangeness she offered him when her husband was around made his stomach turn sour. When the sheriff asked if they could have a nightcap together, he decided to go his own way, although Chan invited them to his study. Tong denied, using the far drive as an excuse that he had to leave. He thanked them for dinner, of course. She was nowhere in sight. Once he walked out the front door, he circled to the back and crouched below the bushes. She was there, in the backyard, filling the barrels with water. She pushed her sleeves up, and the light from the candle she had lit showed the black and blue arms. He shut his eyes, feeling the pain inside his heart double, as he thought of how small she was against that giant of a fool. He heard laughter, and he watched as she turned toward the interior of the home. Taking that moment, he walked to her and grabbed both her hands. As she opened her mouth to squeal, he reached out with his other hand and placed it over her lips. "It's me," he whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you. You've been hurt enough already." She looked at him with wide-opened eyes, and then she slowly stepped away from him. "You're asking to die, Tong. You should leave here immediately. If Chan finds you here, he'll gut you." He smiled. "I want him to. It'll give me an excuse to punch his face for hurting you." He motioned to her arms. She quickly shoved her sleeves down. "How long has he been hitting you?" "It's not any of your concern," she said quietly. "You're right. It's not. But now that I know, I can't walk away. Tell me, the reason you asked me to stay for dinner, was it because you were afraid he'd beat you should you be alone with him?" When she didn't answer, he shook his head. "Your silence is enough, Baying." She shot her head up. "Don't address me as such." He smiled and walked to her. "Then how should I address you? Sweetheart? Doll? Baby? Is this how you speak to another man's wife?" Smiling, he shook his head and said, "I've never done this before, and to be honest, it's quite exciting. I'm normally a quiet man, but when I look at you, I can't help but want to protect you. How can he put his hands on you like that? If you were mine, I'd treasure you like gold." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "Well, I'm not yours. Good night, Mr. Tong." She turned and walked back inside the house. He stood there, watching, and then saw her peek out from behind the wall. When their gazes met, he let out a chuckle as she quickly ran up the stairs. The sheriff was finally gone. It took forever for the man to leave, but the house was now quiet, and he could feel the blood rushing through his veins. Chan felt the anger burning in the pit of his stomach from deep within that raged like a wild thunderstorm. He wasn't expecting to come home to another man inside his house, entertaining his wife. And then she had the nerve to invite both of them to stay for dinner? And she'd made steak, his favorite dinner, and served them with a smile. He had been itching to get his hands on her all evening. Chan entered the master bedroom where she was sleeping on the bed, her body curved like a sea beneath the covers. He pulled at his necktie and then tossed it on the floor. Reaching for the blanket, he ripped it off her and she sat up in bed, her hair flowing over her creamy shoulders. The nightgown she wore didn't cover much, and through the light of the moon he saw the bruises decorating her body. She just couldn't learn, could she? You embarrassed me tonight, he whispered. How could you let me down like that? Chan, she whimpered. Please, I didn't do it to embarrass you. I wanted them to appreciate you. Laughing, he replied, No, darling. You wanted them to appreciate you. He walked to her and then grabbed her neck, pulling her up. She gagged, and he shoved her against the wall. A picture frame fell and shattered into pieces. She tried to run and accidentally pierced her palm with the glass. Sobbing, she brought her bloody hand up to hold. He shook his head and knelt down to her, yanking her hand and violently pulling the glass out. I love you so much, Paying. But when will you ever learn that what I say and ask of you, you must complete without making any mistakes? Can you do that for me, huh? He tossed the glass away, and then he shoved her against the wall. When he kissed her violently, she refused to open up for him, and so he reached for her thigh and pinched her flesh. She moaned out pain against his lips and finally gave in without another fight. The knock came early in the morning, and Paying laid in bed listening as Patsy went to greet whoever was at the door. She heard Chan's voice exchanging conversations with the person, and then Patsy came into her room with Abby behind her. A few dresses were in her hands as Patsy closed the door, and she looked up with a sad gaze in her eyes. The dresses are here, Mrs. Governor, Abby said loudly. I trust you find them to be of your liking. Paying immediately broke down and a tear rolled down her cheek. Oh, Abby. She fell into the woman's arms and sobbed. I feel so dirty. Darling, let's get you a bath, shall we? The barrel of water was warm with some rose petals as Paying slipped in. Her body was aching everywhere, and she was careful not to let her wounded hand get wet. Where's your bar soap? Abby asked. Right there. She reached for it, and then she paused. It's Tong's. Yes, I like it. Tong, Abby said. Now that's a story to share with you. That man deserves a good woman. Paying turned to her. What's his story? Well, he was born and raised here in Harper Stone. His mama and papa worked the land he lives on this very day. Both were brilliant and kind people. He's always been kind of quiet, but he's a real gentleman if you ask me. Paying made a sound. Ugh. I beg to differ. Abby frowned and then she laughed. Did something happen that I'm not aware of? He is a kind man, Mrs. Governor. Oh, I don't doubt that he's kind, but he's not a gentleman. He hit on me last night in my own home, daring to call me baby, darling, and sweetheart. Abby blushed, and the soap slipped from her hand into the barrel of water. Oh, dear. I never thought I'd live to see the day those words came out from his mouth. I have to say, Mrs. Governor, you are the most exciting thing this whole town has ever seen. Laughing, Paying turned to her. What does that mean? Trust me, Mrs. Governor, the most thrilling thing that has happened in this town was when that brothel came to life, bringing the married men to their knees when those women came out wearing those tiny things called corsets. The married women in this town were sent on a hysterical, mind-boggling search for their missing men for weeks. That was about as hot as this town gets you. But you, she laughed, you are a breath of fresh air. Look at how you are, already making the town's most well-known bachelor drop compliments for you. Paying blushed. What is his story? Why isn't he married? She began to lather the soap and started to massage it into Paying's hair strands. Well, he liked a girl way back then, But she didn't like him very much, called him such ugly names when he tried to woo her. Thong is a godly man at heart, Mrs. Governor. He will open doors and pick flowers for you in old romantic so. Learned that from his good old pa. The girl refused to marry him unless he could buy her a big old diamond ring and sell his ranch. When he refused, she turned to the brothel doors. Paying turned around, shocked. She's in there? Oh, yes. The girl with the greenest set of eyes you'll ever see. Paying felt her heart skip a beat. So that was her, the girl who was looking at her the other day. The girl with the greenest set of eyes anyone would ever see. Why would she choose that over him? Laughing, Abby replied, because when you do not truly love someone, it won't matter if they offer you the whole world. You will still turn east and dig your own grave. I'm sure that when Tom walks past that hotel, she is up there looking down, wishing he'd look up at her. But Tom is too good for that. He would never accept her again after she's laid on her back for so many men. Paying looked away, and then she let out a breath. Do you blame her, though? She probably had no choice. Just like you? When I look at you, I see that you also had no choice, Mrs. Governor. Tears rolled down her cheeks. That's right. Choices are for the rich and highly educated. I'm neither. Thank you for tuning in. Chapter 3 will be out shortly.
Colors of white and gray behind an empty space.